for today's show, but my schedule moved around. I became available to do the stream as is normally scheduled today, and then wanted to come on and do one here today. So I am here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If this is your first time watching, my name is Jordan. I'm the head coach here at SaberSim, and Office Hours is an open Q&A show where I answer questions from the SaberSim community about how to use SaberSim to build better DFS lineups. So if you have questions that you'd like me to answer on the show, the best way to do it is to ask them in the Office Hours channel in Slack. If you're not already in Slack, you can join. There's a link to join in the description of every past show. You can also always ask your questions live in YouTube chat or email us, support@sabersim.com. We are still here in the midst of the baseball all-star break. We got the all-star game coming up tonight, actually. So a little bit of a DFS break. Maybe you have been grinding League of Legends LPL contests, of which there have been 20K to first contests every single night. There is actually a 4-game slate tonight, which is LPL LCK for League of Legends, which actually looks pretty fun. I might play a little bit of that. We do have the 3M Open coming up here overnight tomorrow, basically. So DFS coming back around here, but of course on a little bit of a baseball break, apart from the All-Star game, which is the one question I have in my queue here for today. It looks like Toasted Taters wanted to talk a little bit of All-Star game strategy. So we'll get into that. If you guys have any other questions for me, fire away at me here. I don't see anything else in the queue right now. I think this will probably be a pretty chill stream here today, just while I think people are kind of mostly getting a mental break from DFS, myself included. I've played a little bit of those, what are they called? Those League of Legends contests this week here. Let's go ahead. Let me get the app, or not the app, pulled up. I'm actually going to pull up DK here because we don't have All-Star game support for baseball. So I wanted to answer this question about All-Star game strategy, but we'll have to do it kind of, I guess, taking a little bit more of like a hand building kind of approach. But let's at least give this a try here. So Toasted Tater said, playing light, but any All-Star game strategy thoughts? Yeah, so let's talk about this. So, I mean, first of all, I think playing light's a really good idea. I think, you know, it's baseball showdown, which is already going to be a little bit higher variance, but we don't even really, you know, I think this is also going to be one of the main ways you can get an edge, and I'll talk about that in a second, but most of these guys are not going to play very much, right? You're talking about like maybe 2 at-bats on average for most of the hitters, maybe an inning at most for most of the pitchers here. So you're trying to project outcomes for already a very high variance sport for a very small sample size for like all of these guys here. Everybody out there is kind of having fun too and screwing around a little bit as well. So I would say play light, but I think there can be a little bit of an edge here. The one edge I think that you can really get out of this is that I think there's a bit of an ownership edge here, or maybe a duplication edge. And I think the big thing here is that the average player, or I think the casual or the more recreational player that's coming in to build lineups here, is going to far overvalue guys that are starting here. If we look, I was looking at this earlier today, and if we look at this, just kind of how this game played out last year, right? You know, you're talking about basically across the board, on average, 1 or 2 at-bats for most of these hitters, right? In a sport and a game type where you're, you know, basically hoping to get the right combination of upside, right? Like basically a hit or a double or a run or an RBI or something like that is going to like give massive upside. You've got a couple of these guys get 3 at-bats last year. Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Xander Bogaerts both get 3, but most of them get 2. All of the pitchers are just going to get an inning. But DraftKings, because by default, they're basically only showing players who are projected to start here. I think there are going to be far more lineups built basically from lineups that are entirely built from starters, or very heavily feature starters just in general. This year also, at least from what I kind of noticed here, is it seems very easy to make a lineup featuring mostly starters here. Like if you go in here and you were just trying to like hand build a quick lineup together, the pricing is so efficient, or the pricing is so inefficient, I guess would be a better way of looking at it, is that it's like very easy to just build a lineup full of all starters, right? Last year, I threw a couple lineups in at the last second here for the All-Star game, and that's not how I remember it. I remember like almost just purely based on salary alone, you were pushed in the direction of having to play a couple guys that weren't starting, because it's so easy to hand build a lineup full of all guys that are starting. And because DraftKings basically says, like, DraftKings implies to the casual player that really it only makes sense to use players that are starting. I think one of the best things that you could do is use a lineup that heavily features, or maybe even is entirely based on players that aren't starting. I'd be curious to see, what lineups like that would actually look like and how far I'd want to go there. But I would say at least lineups that are overweight to players that aren't starting in the game are going to get you really unique and probably give you just as much of a shot at upside than any other construction, right? Number of at bats here isn't really going to correlate, I don't think, too heavily to upside here. Like, I mean, the best case scenario, obviously best case scenario is that you like happen to play some or some combination of the guys that managed to hit a home run. But even just getting a hit in this game for guys like basically only getting 1 to 3 at bats is going to be pretty good. And I don't think there's a big reason to play players that are starting versus not starting, especially considering the ownership discount that you're likely going to get. So especially some of these guys here that just are going to be less exciting names for people to click on, right? Some of the names that are guys that aren't starting, that just aren't as popular of plays. I think you're going to get some pretty unduplicated. I think you're going to get some pretty unique lineups with some constructions of players that just aren't going to be very popular. I'm not sure. I was trying to. I don't think I have a stance on pitching. I would probably just fade Kershaw and McClanahan because I think they're going to be popular just because, again, they have that green check mark. I'm not entirely sure on these other pitchers here. We saw, just looking again last year, there's definitely some upside available out there for pitchers as well. If you look at the National League, for example, Freddie Peralta last year pitched for an inning and threw 3 strikeouts. Corbin Burns got 2 innings and threw 2 strikeouts. Especially given that there's going to be a lot of hitters that get 1 to 3 at-bats and just do nothing with it. I think the pitchers provide a little bit of a floor there while also having some upside in their own right. They're also pretty affordable, right? It's not like you're having to pay a ton. Like their prices are comparable to all the hitters. So I think it does make sense probably to incorporate some pitching as well, just because they're going to be a little bit more of a reliable source of scoring while also having some upside. I would probably skip the Kershaw and McClanahan plays myself though. And if Shane goes out there and throws 3 strikeouts and starts, it is what it is, right? Like it's still mostly just for fun, for a sweat. But I think his ownership is likely to be a lot higher than any of these other guys that just have the red. This X or this not in starting lineup icon is not inviting to click on this player's name. And I'm interested to see. I'll probably end up throwing a few lineups into this now. I don't even know if I was really going to play originally, but I think I'm probably going to now because I kind of want to test my hypothesis here. But I think there's going to be a huge discount here on some of these names. So I also think it's probably pretty unlikely that some of the like relievers and closers are actually picked at all. And I think that would be another way to get a little bit different. Now, you do run into a problem of, you're trying to project, like, I don't even know. I guess maybe somebody in chat could answer for me. Does anybody know if pitchers in the All-Star game reliably all get to play? That would be a question I have. Like, if we have, so we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can I just search pitcher? Let's see, SP. Okay, let's see. Let's do this real quick. I'm trying to see basically how many total pitchers we have, like for just the National League, for example. 1, 2, 3. Well, I don't even know. Oh, this would be the easiest way. What am I doing? because I do think all the hitters will get at least an at bat, right? But you've got, okay, so let's do American League. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 relievers, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 pitchers. So I guess I think probably everybody's going to get a chance to play, right? They'll probably just do it similar to what like happened here last year. Or if we go back to the AL, right? Most of the starters all get an inning, and then, but I don't know. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that got to pitch last year. Here. So I don't know. I think that's just one thing that you'd have to grapple with here, is probably have to take some shots on some of these guys if you're going to play some of the the relievers and some of the not starting pitchers that the guy might get a 0. But we're playing to win, right? We're not playing for floor. So I think you just take a shot on it and go for it. I think the starting pitchers, I think the starting pitchers are probably a little bit more safe to get into the game and get a chance to actually pitch while getting still all the value of them not starting, right? That would be my guess. But Patrick said, should we roster players at a position that has less depth, more playing time? Yeah, I think, I mean, let's see. So what, we have 5 total shortstops. I mean, I think they're still going to try to get these guys. I guess that's actually a good point. I don't know. The one thing I'm thinking though is like they'll probably move these guys around, right, to at least get them in the game, and at least get them their at bats, right? But I don't know. Guys like the catchers are interesting, right? Is Trevino the only catcher for the American League? Am I crazy? It kind of seems like he is, right? There must be somebody else catching that's just listed as a different position here. Or is he seriously the only catcher for the American League? I think that's interesting, right? Who's starting? Wait, what's going on here? Who's starting for the American League at catcher? There's got to be somebody. Who's going to catch? Maybe that's actually a pretty good point now that I'm thinking about it, right? I don't know. I actually think that's a pretty good point. And like, as far as I can tell, okay. So Alejandro Kirk, for some reason, is listed as an outfielder on here. There's your other catcher. So, but I do still think that's an interesting play because those guys are going to have to play more, right? Like the outfield, right? It's very easy to sub players in. I think even most of the infield positions, right? They'll just move guys around to make sure they get their at bats. If I don't know, guys will get them moved around so that they can get their at bats. But I do think that's an interesting angle as well. I like the idea of playing some of the catchers there, just because they're the only ones that are probably going to catch, right? So you've got, I mean, on the national league, right? The Contreras brothers, are they brothers? Are going to get all of the reps there. So I think that's an interesting angle. Patrick said chalky captain spot would be a Dodger player. Yeah, I mean, I think chalky captain spot is basically going to be virtually anybody that starts. That's kind of a household name. I think Mookie Betts is going to be pretty popular just because of the playing at home narrative. But I don't think he's going to be like far and away more popular than here. Wait, let's close this off again. Like, I think Judge is going to be popular. I think Ohtani is absolutely going to be popular. Acuna is going to be like, I think you'll probably have, most of the names here for the starting lineups, especially the guys that are a little bit more household names, just all kind of share a lot of captain ownership. And I would definitely take a shot on playing somebody that isn't starting as your captain. I think that's probably the easiest way to get different. I'd probably do that in basically every lineup, right? Just because, again, I mean, it's almost strange to me the way that DraftKings labels this, but it really makes it look like these guys aren't even going to play. So you can take a shot on, the Corey Seager or Austin Riley or any of these other guys. Kyle Schwarber, right? I mean, would anybody be surprised if Schwarber hits a home run there and is the optimal captain, right? Probably not. And I just don't think people are going to get to him that much. So, but so anyway, that's kind of I think the ways I would look at it. I would still, play light, right? Obviously, mostly for fun, mostly for a sweat while you're watching the game here. I think the biggest edge is going to be relying on some of the players that aren't starting and building lineups that are a little bit more overweight to players that aren't starting. I like the idea, especially of playing some of these starting pitchers here, just because I think ultimately there are. I don't know. I mean, I think it kind of depends. I guess I suppose we could get a really high scoring game here tonight where there are a lot of individual hitters that have like big upside performances, but I think it's kind of hard to pick all of those individual guys out and build the optimal lineup. And I think, if you can get, I don't know, if you can build a lineup where you take something down because you played, Alek Manoah, who got 9 points, and the optimal might have featured, I don't know, Cronenworth, who had, 16. The more reliable fantasy points that are available for the pitchers there, I think get you close enough to that high scoring outcome anyway. So I like the idea of playing a couple pitchers in there. And I do like Patrick's idea here of looking at positional eligibility and seeing, I think, at the very least, the catchers seem interesting to me because they're going to be the only ones that are going to catch, and there's only 2 of them, right? I mean, it seems like the catchers are the most reliable guys to get multiple hitting opportunities because I think most of the infielders for an all-star game, like, can probably play second, third, short. Most of the outfielders can move around, right? Like, nobody's going to care if the outfielders move around to get their at-bats, but the catchers are going to have to catch. So I think that's interesting too. But yeah. So I also, I'm like really thinking now here. So I assume, this is Willis Contreras, right? I assume so they're both Contreras brothers are starting here, and I assume they're brothers, but both of them are starting. Only one, I assume one's starting at DH. Let's look. MLB All-Star starting lineups. I assume one of these guys has to be starting at the DH, right? But that would mean he's eventually going to have to shift to catch later in the game. Right? Yeah. So that's an interesting angle, right? Of like, I think both Contreras brothers, I guess. I keep saying brothers. I really hope they're actually brothers. Maybe they're cousins. I don't know. Are probably going to get a ton of playing time the more I look at this, because I don't see how they don't, right? They're the only National League catchers, and they're both in the starting lineup to start. So I don't see how they don't get a ton of playing time. I think that's actually a pretty interesting angle to take here, because I can't see, unless I'm just like totally not thinking about something the right way. I guess they have. Okay, I didn't realize there are 3. Okay, there's 3 National League catchers. So back off that a little bit. I forgot Travis d'Arnaud was here as well. So like presumably, what I think will happen is like, Wilson, who's actually starting at catcher, will get probably his like 2-3-ish innings or whatever, two at bats, and then Travis d'Arnaud will probably sub in at catcher, and at some point, Willis Contreras will get subbed out of the DH spot as well to let somebody else hit. So okay, but there's only 2 American League catchers, Trevino and Kirk. So again, I still think the catchers are interesting. I really do, but I don't know. Maybe they'll end up sticking one of these guys in the outfield or something crazy. So anyway, it's a bit of a crapshoot, but I do think if there's going to be a little bit of an edge, there's probably a little slight edge in just building those lineups that are a little more overweight to the players that aren't starting, because I just think that's going to be the least popular construction. So Willie says stack all the catchers. Yeah, there you go. We might as well take a shot on at least one lineup. I mean, I still do think there's a pretty good reason to believe that they're at least a little bit more likely to get an extra at bat, right? So, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, should be fun. Should be fun. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Anything else anybody wants to talk about here? I know, again, kind of a slower day on DFS office hours. That's okay though. That is all right. What else? Any other questions here for me on today's stream? We have an interesting slate coming up on Thursday. I'm curious what the sites are actually going to end up doing here. But we have like 2 double headers on Thursday, and then another just kind of game. So there's like 5 total games of baseball here. But so yeah, we have a New York Houston doubleheader. We have oh geez Louise, what happened? We have, so New York Houston play twice, Detroit and Oakland play twice. Oh, and then we have 2 other games, Texas and Miami, San Francisco and LA. So I'm curious how the slates end up breaking out for that day. But it'll be nice that we actually have a slate of some games this year. Last year was just the Boston and New York game that didn't even end up playing because it got rained out, which I had forgotten about until yesterday. Somebody reminded me on here. So, and then a big slate on Friday, looking ahead. So looking forward to getting back into it. I would say, I know we have this note up here, last note here. We will not be providing simulations or projections for the 2022 All-Star Game. If you do want to use SaberSim to build lineups, I do think the continuous salaries thing, obviously, if you have a different set of projections, great, you could use that. But if you do have a different set of, or if you want to just use this like scaled salaries here, I think this could probably be like fine. Not as like I want to be clear. I'm not saying use the scaled salaries for projections. Go in here, build, set this to that and print and build lineups and just expect to build good lineups, right? But I do think if you're trying to build a few lineups, maybe especially taking advantage of one of the edges we talked about here, I think you could. The projections are going to be so random anyway that I think this will work fine as a baseline from which to work from. I think that's I think you could use that at least. So if you do end up doing that, I'd probably just turn min salary totally off. And I might go ahead in here and say like at least 4 from players that aren't starting or something like that. Again, as a way to just get a little bit different there. But okay, here's a question. Aaron says, when is a good time to move up in stakes, bankroll, or take a shot at the next level? Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. So our bankroll management recommendations would generally say to stick between 2.5% to 5% of your bankroll for any one slate, right? For any one main slate, essentially. I mean, I think as your bankroll grows, that will obviously increase. So I think that's kind of the most natural way to do it. That, as you win, you'll naturally find yourself moving up in stakes, typically, as those wins like occur. And it's important to remember to kind of move down accordingly too. Like a lot of times, the bank or bleed graph of GPPs, you'll lose a little bit, lose. And it's important to be kind of scaling appropriately and maybe eliminating some of the highest dollar entries that you're playing as that's happening. And then when you win and realize a lot of your profit all at one time, then you can typically move up in stakes and take some shots. So I think that's probably the most natural way to do it. The one caveat to that is like, if you have a significant win that really changes your bankroll completely, right? Maybe you're playing with a, $1,500 bankroll and then you win 10K playing a certain contest or something like that. The money you are now playing every night will feel quite a bit different. So sometimes I recommend people start slow there and move up slower rather than, if you were playing 5% of your bankroll at $1,500 to just immediately start playing 5% of your bankroll at a $10,000 bankroll, just because it can be a big jump, right? There's no reason to I don't know, to all of a sudden be sweating that extra investment way more. But yeah, I mean, I think overall, I would just stick to the 2.5 to 5% of your bankroll personally, and let your move up in stakes happen naturally. If you haven't seen our DFS profit plan video on YouTube, I would definitely go and check this out. It is up here right at the top. Start winning more with our DFS profit plan. This will go into a lot more detail about our contest selection and bankroll management recommendations. And I think that will probably help answer some questions as well. So I definitely check that out if you haven't already seen it. But and then with that, in terms of taking shots, I think, okay, I'll say this. There's no taking shots section of the DFS profit plan, right? If you're sticking to the best, if you're sticking to optimal contest selection and bankroll management strategy here, there's no room for like taking a shot on the occasional like higher stakes contest. I think on the other hand, I think there is an argument to be made in sports that that you kind of have an edge, and that you've been profitable over the long term. I don't hate the idea of, occasionally, especially for like fun special occasions, taking a shot on a couple higher dollar lineups than you're used to. And I think sometimes you get the right roll there, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of like really boost your bankroll all at once. Baseball is kind of one of those sports for me where it's probably my best over the long-term sport, at least by ROI. And I'll take a shot like that on occasion, I don't think that's the worst idea, but you should understand that that's increasing your variance, right? And that's not strictly the best way to maximize your profit while minimizing your risk. So, Patrick says, are they still playing for home field advantage in the World Series? Yes, as far as I'm aware. I think that came up. I think we were talking about that the other day. Eamon said, what's up, Air Jordan? Did the condo close? What's the holdup? It is later this afternoon. So we're on track. Patrick says, I'm looking to upgrade to a new computer. What kind of setup are you running at home? I know you had one crap out on you before you upgrade. Yeah, I actually built mine. I used Logical Increments, which is a pretty cool site if you're interested in doing a home build. We're just talking about whatever today here, but that's fine. It's the All-Star break. But this site is let's see. This site, I highly recommend this site. It's called Logical Increments. Oops. Logicalincrements.com. And it'll show you how to it'll give you different template builds for your computer, and basically account for mostly compatibility and make sure all the parts are compatible together. And then there's a bunch of guides and stuff online there for how to do it from there. Okay, we actually have a baseball DFS question from Stadia. I was watching a lot of your videos about stacking. Is the 5-3 stack still the most optimal, or does it change throughout the season? The 5-3 stack is the maximally correlated lineup you can build on any given slate. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's necessarily optimal. It changes a lot. The biggest thing that's going to impact like what size stack you should use is mostly the size of the slate, right? On bigger slates, we typically want to stack more, right? You want bigger stacks, you want more stacks, just because there's more players in the pool. It's likely that it's less likely that the winning lineup in any contest is going to be the perfect nuts optimal of what actually was the highest scoring lineup that slate. And we can rely on tools like correlation more to just build for upside, right? Whereas on a smaller slate, you probably need closer to the nuts optimal, and maybe you need to build a 3-2-1-1-1 whatever stack on a 3-game slate to take a contest down, right? I don't typically, I would say in general, like I don't really use too many rules of thumb about what size stacking, what types of stacks I really want. A lot of times I think the best advice I can give is let SaberSim kind of help dictate that for you based on the default sliders for a contest, right? You also get different stacks based on the contest size you're playing. But when you come in here and build, right, this correlation slider is going to be the biggest factor of what kinds of stacks you get. And we can run this. This is for the Sunday slate here. This past Sunday. And this will give us, appropriately sized stacks for the contest we're playing and for this given slate. Right. So that's my best recommendation. For me personally, if you do want a rule of thumb or a heuristic or whatever, for slates that I kind of call small slates, which is typically 4 games or less, I don't even worry about my stack sizes at all. I'll just do whatever I get from SaberSim. For medium-sized slates, I would say like 6 to 10. A lot of times I want just at least a 4 stack in every lineup. But from there, mostly pretty okay with how other things shake out. For large slates, 11 games plus, a lot of times I will play max 1 uncorrelated player. So I will use like 4 3s, 5 3s, 5 2s, and 4 4s. So, and then Stadia said, is there a video on how to use SaberSim to build winning lineups, like specifically the settings you guys use? Maybe I missed it. There's a lot of videos. So on our YouTube page, everything's kind of broken up by sport. So you can kind of go and dig for what particular sport you are looking for. A lot of these videos are like longer streams that I've done with different people on the SaberSim team talking about different strategies and things like that. If you are looking for a little bit more just like SaberSim help, in the up here, when you click settings, if you click help, this will take you to like this nice support landing page that we put together that has kind of a basic overview video of how to use SaberSim, and then some of our most popular tutorials and FAQs that all will take you to our like actual help desk here, and take you to the right tutorial here. So if you're looking for like sport specific strategy, I would look here on the YouTube page. If you want more kind of help about how to use the app and get questions answered like that, I would start here. This video is a really good one to watch too. If you haven't already seen this, I would definitely, it's only 8 minutes long. I would go watch this because I think this is a very helpful overview of, getting you started of like what the best things to do on SaberSim are and what the not so best things to do, I guess, are as well. So that should be a good place to start. In terms of settings specifically, I think you'll find a common trend throughout a lot of our content and tutorials and things like that is that adjusting settings is not really the best way to get a lot of value out of SaberSim, mostly because all of the settings have already been optimized to where they should be, basically, for the given sport and the slate size and the contest you're playing. Like you can see, we just ran this build, right? And this was for a 20 max 10 to 50K entrance size contest, right? And you can see like most of the things that you would want to see in your builds anyway are going to happen here without having to do anything, right? Like these lineups have the right kinds of stacks: 5-3, 5-2, 5 stack, 4-4, 4-2-2. They're not eating all the chalk, right? There's some lower owned plays in all of these lineups. We're not blindly just like slamming all of the best point per dollar players, right? We're obviously on this particular slate, Cole and Nola were on the slate and they were both like really good options. So you're getting a ton of exposure to them, but we're spreading out on a lot of our other exposures to our bats. So like by default, you're getting pretty good. You're getting a good foundation of lineups to begin with just by using the default settings. So a lot of the ways that I recommend people start adding value is by tweaking their exposures in the post-build process to match your personal risk tolerance, right? Like you might look at this and say, I'm not comfortable with the amount of risk of having this much Cole and Nola, right? So you're going to make an adjustment there. That's one of the best ways to make adjustments. I also think making strategic adjustments here in the post-build process. Maybe you've done some research and you want to fade the Braves, right? The Braves were chalky on this slate. Maybe you decided they were too owned and you just want to fade them completely, right? You can make adjustments like that here as well. I wouldn't spend too much time on adjusting the settings. I think the best use of your time is spent making adjustments after the lineups have been built. So, oh, David says they don't get the home field advantage in the World Series anymore. There you go. Thank you, David. Guess I was wrong. I swear I thought I looked this up earlier this week, but I assume you're right. Yeah. Oh, that was a while ago. I don't know what I'm talking about then. It seems like that has been a long time ago. So it seems like that happened a long time ago, I guess. 2016, I'm seeing an article here. So anyway. Eagle says, have you been playing DFS tennis with baseball on break? I haven't been playing a ton of tennis. Honestly, it's been kind of nice for me to just have a little bit of a DFS break. Plus, with getting the condo sale done, been taking up a lot of my time. But I think it's a great sport to check out if you haven't already. We do, as of Wimbledon a few weeks ago, have tennis simulations up in the app, full tennis support. And there's a couple helpful videos on our YouTube channel as well. Quick, 13-minute video that I created of like what I think are the best ways to add value and do some tennis research and make some adjustments to tennis lineups in the app. And then this longer hour-long stream that we did with Sheets and Will about, just broader tennis strategy overall. I think both of these are good resources. So definitely, if you're looking for a little bit of a sweat, you play some tennis DFS. So. But man, I'm embarrassed now that I was 6 years late on this. I thought this happened recently, but apparently not. So good to know. If it doesn't affect DFS scoring, sometimes I'm a little late to it. But anyway. Any other questions here for me today before we start to wrap up today's stream? Anything else? That is true. I did see this. Patrick says, I don't think they're doing extra innings as well. Yeah, they are not. It sounds like they're doing like the DraftKings thing said. If it ends in so the home run derby following the 9 innings, so it sounds like there's an impromptu home run derby taking place if they're tied after 9. So, which does not count for DFS scoring. So, good thing to note. And nobody gets the win bonus if they're tied after 9 as well. So, should make for an interesting end of the game if it's tied up. So, cool. All right. I think we will go ahead and leave it there for today's stream. I'll be back here again tomorrow, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you have any questions, maybe you check out the League of Legends contest tonight, maybe a little all-star game, DFS, tennis DFS. Maybe we start talking a little golf. If you have questions for me, we'll tackle them on tomorrow's stream. In the meantime, enjoy the all-star game tonight and good luck.